On.
Hello! Welcome to Encounter Roleplay. Hello, particularly to everyone who's watching live on Twitch. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to join us live. This show is every Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode 2 of Empire and Shadow, The Compact. So before we jump in, let's just say hi to everyone. I'm Sammy P. I'm going to be your game master. I am a performer. I'm based in Australia, and I'm super excited to do this again. I've been waiting for this since last week. Shifting around clockwise, Zane, how are you this week?
I am wonderful. I'm Zane. I am a performer and a podcaster from Australia, and I am super keen to get into it as well, without tech issues this week.
No tech issues are the best issues. Muffin, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm Jamie Collette. I'm at Muffin Manifesto on Twitter. I'm an Australian-based voice actor. I've been very well this week, just working my butt off. But other than that, I'm excited once more to be in the shadow of the Demon Lord.
No one's ever actually wanted to be in the shadow of the Demon Lord. What are you talking about? Ree, how are you doing?
I am good. Hey everyone, I'm Rhiannon. You can call me Ree, and I am a performer based in the UK at the moment, and I am super keen to get into it and just be really silly.
And as I mentioned last week, our fourth player, Chantel, is currently having some scheduling conflicts, so she should be with us in a couple of weeks. But today, we are joined by Lois. Lois, how are you? Tell us about yourself.
I am almost completely, but not entirely, unlike Kevin, whose name I'm currently bearing on my frame. You can find me on Twitter at incognitiously. If you take in incognito and then take the last O and turn it into usly, you've got the Twitter handle.
Nice.
I'm a writer, an editor. I do some voice directing. I do some stand-up. I also teach historical fencing, so I end up poking my nose in 16th century texts to read how to stab people effectively. It's a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to playing this, because here I can actually stab people properly and not get in trouble.
Yeah.
People are weirdly not okay with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But before we do jump into the game, I want to quickly thank all of our wonderful sponsors, which include Fantasy Grounds, which is our virtual tabletop of choice. All of the roles that we are doing tonight is using Fantasy Grounds, and you can try it for free at fantasygrounds.com. You can also get all of your miniatures from Wayland Games. Go to waylandgames.co.uk, and you can get a huge range of D&D, Warhammer, and 40k miniatures for 20% off. And finally, Tabletop Loot provides fantastic dice, which we are giving away when we hit stream goals. Go to tabletoploot.com, and you can see the kind of sets that we can win each session. Speaking of giving away dice, if we hit, let's be more positive about that. When we hit 20 retweets, we will be giving away a set of tabletop loot dice. So you can see the tweet with ! tweet in the chat to see the tweet, or you can just go to the Encounter Roleplay Twitter page, and then we can give away that first set once we hit. Looks like we're already at 8, so 12 more, and we can give away some dice. If you do want to sort of follow and check out some of those sponsors, you can go ! Sponsor in the chat, and that will provide all the relevant links to be able to check them out. Also, I would like to remind you that Encounter Roleplay loves to do audience interaction. So when if you donate to this game, you can give out natural 1s, natural 20s, and other things like that, wild magic surges to all of the players. And this month's special is the Table of Pets, which I still don't entirely know what it is, and I am still very excited to find out. But ! Donate if you want to donate. But without further ado, let's jump into the game of Shadows of the Demon Lord.
Nice.
So, last week, the team that was sent into the town of Sixton managed to recover a mysterious scroll and rescue the former agent Edgar Sweetwater. Since returning to the safe house outside of the town of Ballard, there's been a lot of activity. The safe house is now slightly more put together. Not quite. It's just not an absolute mess like it was before. There's been some time to actually set some stuff up, get some things going. All of our previous, well, they're not agents yet, but our previous potential agents have been able to take some time to train, to sort of hone some of the skills they learnt on their first mission. But we're not, as I mentioned at least last week, I have definitely not been stealing. It's definitely inspired is the correct word from XCOM. And so instead of everyone having a set character, everyone can pick from a pool of characters. So as we sweep through this safe house and we move into a space that seems to be at least sort of an ad hoc sort of mission briefing area, we see Agent Codden, our sort of veteran halfling agent. He is sort of gesturing with his one arm up at a map of the sort of northern part of the Empire's lands. You've got the Northern Reach, which is where you are located at the moment, which is quite a large sort of frontier space. And then just underneath that, past a mountain range, the two areas that he seems most interested in is the Holy Kingdom, which is the sort of the seat of the cult of the new god, the Empire's primary religion. And on the other, and just to the west of the Holy Kingdom, is the province of Tyr. And he definitely seems to be very agitated about something there. But first, who are the three agents listening to Agent Codden? Anyone can just jump in.
Sure, I will.
Sure, yeah. We'll start at the absolute weirdest.
Yeah, let's go with that. Do you want a description or like an introduction?
Well, tell us a bit about like what sort of, I guess, like what do we see? What do we see as you're sitting there, and how are you listening to this? Like, what are you doing as you listen to this this briefing?
Codden isn't. So Codden, in front of Codden is this agent who isn't sitting because he's standing. He is a large clockwork with the lower body of a horse. He's 6 feet long, 6 feet tall, and looking at him, you're like, that's about 750 pounds, 340 kilos for those playing the metric. And his body is stylized and ornate. I imagine lots of intricate scroll work, a very humanoid face that's just quite passive. And I reckon he's listening with absolute stillness and like no expression because clockwork.
Yeah.
And just occasionally nodding, taking in the information.
Does he have a human face?
Sorry?
Does he have a human face?
In my mind, yeah. He has like a vaguely humanoid face. I'd say like there is the image of eyes, the idea of a nose, and like a mouth hole.
Is it articulated? Or is it just like
I reckon,
there's like a space where there's a mouth, there's, eyes?
I think there's because he's quite ornate, I'll say he's articulated. Like somebody's put a lot of craft and care into giving him some movement. If it doesn't even, although it doesn't probably just express a broad range of emotions. And this is, I'll say his name, he's Jackaroo.
So our agent in training, Jackaroo.
Yep.
I kind of like, because like when he's like watching him passively, the only reason you don't know he hasn't just shut down is you can still slightly just hear a little ticking sound. Just enough to be like, he's not just powered down.
Also, I will say, very notably, which is important, he does have a sword grafted to his right arm. On reflection, he has a sword grafted to his right arm, and he is holding a small shield in the other. So he's like battle ready all the time. He is on.
He's
Literally
kept
on.
losing his sword, and it was just like, if I just weld this to my forearm. All right, let's go counterclockwise, just to be a bit different. Muffin, who are you playing?
So next to Jackaroo, there's a human woman who looks like she's maybe around 30 years old. She has like really deep set dark eyes, and you can tell she's wearing like a little bit too much makeup to sort of like cover up the fact that she looks like she hasn't slept in like weeks. But she's got like this little grin on her face. She's sort of smiling as Cotton explains their mission to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Zane.
Well, returning, we have Sly from last time, and he's quite a comely human-looking chap. Though everyone here knows that he's not all that he seems, and he's looking very, very concerned with what Sergeant is saying, because he's out for promotion, and so he wants to seem like he deserves it, whether or not he actually does.
Now, does Sly still look like the Georgie,
Yes.
or has he changed form since that last mission?
There's been a little bit of time, hasn't there?
A little bit.
Between, yeah, so I think he would go back to his more comely form, because that seems to get him places more so than just regular, boring, human-looking people.
Mm-hmm. so he basically just went and found someone prettier and was like, "You, I'm going to stare at you for a little bit and then look like you."
Yes,
not uncomfortable at all. Fantastic. So as we sort of come into this room, we've got the three agents, quite a diverse group, listening to Agent Cotton. Agent Cotton, he's pointing up, as I said, at the Holy Kingdom, and he's saying, "Right now, as you're aware, after the Orc Revolt, there was a mass exodus of people leaving Caicris and the surrounding areas, fleeing from the devastation the Orcs were doing. Some provinces opened their arms and accepted the people in. Some did not. The Holy Kingdom has probably received the majority of them, but this has meant that for years now, they have been living mostly in tent cities or shanty towns. And recently, a group within the church, calling themselves the New Dawn, have proposed an initiative to relocate these displaced peoples, and they have been making an effort to go around to other towns and cities and finding out if they can accept an influx of people, and they have been then moving people in waves. It's dangerous terrain in there. There's bandits, there's woad raiders, beastmen, just to name a few. So they are sending them with escorts of soldiers provided by the church. However, our informants have noticed that the number of refugees leaving compared to the number of refugees arriving, particularly in any group heading into Tia, the neighboring province, does not line up. Now, some degree of loss isn't surprising by any stretch, but it doesn't seems more than you would expect and more consistent than you would expect. Normally, this is not something we... Sorry, I talked over you. What was that?
I think Amelia can't help herself but express her concern for them. She says, "You those poor darlings."
No. Let the sergeant talk.
Oh, of course. Please continue.
The sergeant does seem to be sort of like trying to like almost like going to like a happy place and just being like, it's fine, okay. And he goes, normally this would not be something the compact would handle directly. We would probably just feed this information to someone we know would make a fuss and allow them, the system, to sort itself out. But the province of Tyr is very important. Horus, who rules the province, is the only living heir to the throne now that the emperor is dead. He is the previous emperor's uncle. We have hopes, particularly our leader, Colonel Berger, our leader, Colonel Berger, does have hopes that he will be able to take the throne and hopefully reunite the empire. This hasn't happened, but we do want to keep a close eye on what he is doing. And on top of that, the road that these people are moving along is an important supply line for the compact. If it has been compromised, if it has become suddenly more dangerous, we need to know. To that end, I am sending the three of you to pose as refugees, move within this group, find out what is happening, and if possible, fix it. You will be met by a contact that we have worked with before, a halfling lady named Lottie, and he sort of there's a sketch of this this halfling, this female halfling, and so he hands it to probably Sly.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Welcome. She has arranged all the paperwork, arranged that you will be able to be a part of this group when it sets off. Any questions?
If we are
Is there only ever been... Oh.
Well, after you.
Amelia.
After you, my dear.
I was just thinking that if there is a chance we are to pose as refugees, I will need some poorer clothing. And like you see, like she's wearing basically an evening gown in the middle of this like mission briefing.
God, that's just Cotton sort of he sort of is just like, oh gods, okay, Amelia, yes, I understand. Before you set off, obviously go talk to Quartermaster Blix. He will handle your equipment before you leave. Sly, you had a question.
Oh, yes, more of a personal question. Is there a number of successful missions I have to complete before I can call you Sarge? And will you tell me when I can?
He does sort of have like a bit of a grin at this, and he's like, once you're an agent, maybe. Only if I like you. But I'm not going to tell you. Now, if there are no other questions about
At that,
the mission,
I think Jackaroo steps forward and is like, Sergeant Cotton, if I am to join these people, will I stand out? Am I the right person for this job? And he just looks really shifty, even for clockwork.
yeah, so this sort of like 3-foot halfling sort of staring up at this 6-foot, clockwork centaur. And he's just like, I struggle to think of a place where you would not stand out, Jackaroo. But there will be a whole range of people. Most of them are just desperate to find a place to call home. So long as you don't draw too much additional attention to yourself, I think you'll be okay. And if
we are
things
all
go wrong,
desperate to find a place. to call home. And then he like touches his heart and looks like really intensely at the floor.
Colin's just yes. He's just sort of staring at us. He's like, everyone's having a really personal moment during this mission brief, and I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's really intense.
Amelia stands up and like puts a hand on. Is it inappropriate to put a hand on Jackaroo's like body? Is that where you do? Because she can't reach his shoulder, surely, if he's taller than a horse.
I don't think he cares as a clockwork. I don't think he's particularly touchy about where you touch him.
I think she puts a hand like sort of somewhere near where the shoulder is, I guess, on a centaur. I'm not sure how that works. And she says, I am sure we will all feel safer knowing that you are with us, darling. And then she sort of pats Cotton on the shoulder because he's much shorter than she is. And she goes, thank you for the briefing, darling. Come on, Victor. And she starts walking towards the quartermaster. And from like under her chair, this sort of lizard snake-like construct about the size of a dog just sort of like slithers out. It's like made of metal and it has legs, but it sort of looks a bit like this sort of lizard snake creature made of gears and metal plating. Just like slithers out and follows her.
Wow. Does it have like it's got like 4 sets of legs, or just got like, does it just have like 4 arms or something? Like, is it still like sliding, like almost like a bottom part is like snake and then top part has like appendages and can do stuff, or like how is it?
Yeah, no, I'm imagining sort of more like a Komodo dragon or like a large lizard.
Okay.
But yeah, like the front of it sort of rears up a little bit, so or almost like an eastern dragon, but made out of...
Oh yeah, like a lung dragon.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool. I love it.
But then it definitely has like fast moving legs on it, and you can't work out at first glance whether it has like 4 or 6 or 8 legs. It moves very
just sort of like,
and
it's got a kind of like a slithering motion, but it is still skittering on legs.
Yeah,
which
yeah, for
feel
sure.
like would be slightly disconcerting.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. So Cotton then is just sort of like, well, if there's no further questions, I suggest you go talk to Blix. And he sort of gestures over to in the direction of like the sort of the armory where the quartermaster would be.
Jackaroo turns to the door and his lumbering clockwork form sort of moves forward. He's like sort of in this rigid, proud pose. Like I just see him like chest pressed forward as he just walks out with such like majesty. Jackaroo has majesty all of the time.
Awesome.
Just dripping in majesty.
I can't imagine like he's quite large and like he's very solid, but I can't get the impression he's going to be, because he is, you know, got like a horse body, he's still probably faster than like you'd actually expect when he starts moving. You're like, oh, right.
I feel like he moves slowly out of choice. Like he likes, because he's like, I'm actually like riding a horse right now. I'm like, he's like this. But when he takes off, he's like, meh. Smashing it out.
I love it.
Anyway.
I love it.
So much detail.
So you get to the armory, which when we last saw it was in complete disarray. And now it definitely is much more set up, but it is quite clear that given the recent troubles the Compacted has, it is a bit not as well equipped as you might want. And you see Blix sort of just is rushing around. Blix is this this little sort of, you know, probably just shy of 3 foot tall goblin who's got this just this huge sort of bulbous and almost like perfectly spherical nose, which kind of looks very comical. He's kind of, when you look at him straight on, it's just this round thing, and then this weird smile underneath that's just filled with like needle teeth. He's got like a brick red complexion, and he's just sort of running around. He's checking things. He's like making a mental tally of various things around the room, and he sort of sees you approaching, and he's like, "Ah, yes. I was told to expect you. Howie, what are you after? What do you need?" Anyone? You, Sly, what do you want?
I feel like we've lost Sly.
Oh, no.
Zane, I think you're muted.
Yeah, Zane, I think you're on mute. Nah, man, can't hear you.
We have lost Zane's audio.
You know what? Sly seems busy. I'm gonna look at the other two and. Gosh, you're big. Looking up at Jack, and then he's looking at the other one and looking at Amelia, and he's like, "So, what do you need? What's going on?"
The sergeant has sent us on a important mission to find out what is happening in Tyr, and I need some more appropriate clothing.
Appropriate? What? What kind of appropriate? What do you need? What situation? Appropriate for what? Black tie, combat. Like, what are we after here?
Blix, sweetheart, we are told we will have to be blending in with refugees.
Oh. Well, all right then. Okay, let me think. And he sort of bundles away, and he comes back with just like this arms full of various things. He starts like holding them up against and like sort of eyeballing it. You know, holds one up to see it's like for size, and he just throws it over his shoulder. Like, no, and he sort of, and then he kind of looks at Jackaroo. He's like, and he sort of keeps going, and then eventually he's given each of you essentially an outfit, and basically it's a soft leather armor essentially. So it looks like mostly like clothes. But it is has a bit of protection to it, so everyone you can add +1 to your defense while wearing it. Jackaroo, though, he finds it feels kind of like a mix of like it's much sturdier. And it kind of almost, part of it does look like very hard-wearing clothing, but also part of it probably looks a bit like almost like leather barding for a horse. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're strong enough to handle. You've got 11 strength from memory.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're basically you've instead got like what would be like more hard leather armor. So I think which is a +2 to your defense.
Yeah, I do.
Because you can, there's a little less options, but also you're strong enough to sort of to handle like the heavier armor.
Quick question while we're there. That also gives I have a shield, and that gives another +1, doesn't it?
Yes.
To my defense.
And while using it though, so while you've got it equipped, so just remember to add that on as well. So +1.
Okay. Thanks.
On that note, he is sort of like, is that all you need, or like weapons? What's going on? What else?
I think when you say weapons, Jackaroo just holds up his arm, and it's like, it's just like.
Yes, I see. You okay?
Hey, Zane heard that.
I'm back. Hooray!
Yay.
I don't know what's going on. I'm fine. I don't need anything. You're just great being you, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Put in a good word with me for the sergeant.
I don't know if that would help, but it probably won't hurt. So sure, why not? That's fine.
That's what I like to
he's
hear.
Happy. Well, do you know what? Before you go, let me just give. And he sort of rummages around. He goes, you know what? You're so nice. Let me see if I've got something extra for you. And he's like, here, have this. And he gives you like a healing kit. He's like, you never know when things go wrong, you might need, well, you know, you might need to put someone back
healing
together,
kit.
or yeah, you know, I don't know what. So I think that's all. Yes. Okay. Good luck. I hope I see you again.
I walk out with
You
majesty.
see some of it.
Yeah, Sly. He's like to Sly. And he's like changeling jokes. Yeah. So if you're all squared away, we might just we'll just keep going. So you are you're essentially sort of in like the center, sort of southern area of the Northern Reach. So it does take a little bit of time to get down to this sort of essentially kind of like a muster area for this particular wave of relocation. It's sort of down a little ways into the Holy Kingdom, but it's roughly along the border. The thing is, the border between the Holy Kingdom and Tyr is this massive gorge that only has one access point, which is a bridge that was built specially to enable travel between Tyr and the Holy Kingdom, as kind of like a payment for help that the Holy Kingdom provided Tyr. Because Tyr was a wild place for years that was constantly beset by raiders and beastmen. And Horus, his job was to basically tame it. And Horus famously was this kind of almost like a wastrel of a royal. He's like kind of that classic sort of noble who just wants to get drunk, and then if he gets in trouble, he has enough money to just throw at the problem till it goes away, and then he goes on to the next thing that's going to amuse him. And he was kind of just sent here because he was an embarrassment, but he actually managed to thrive, and he actually did. And so he's he's an old man, but he is beloved because of his actions, and he was successful in sort of beating back the darkness. It is kind of encroaching again now that the empire is fragmented and the support isn't quite there anymore. But that bridge and going into Tyr is important. That's why it's an important supply line for the compact. And then Horus himself is important to the potential plans of getting a proper emperor again, and hopefully bringing back all the provinces together and reuniting everything. So you make your way down, and you sort of travel along through the mountain pass, go through an area called Tumble Down, which is kind of like where this mountain range becomes more hills, then becomes more forest as you go into the Holy Kingdom, and you eventually do reach this sort of area, and at a sort of predetermined meeting point, you find Lottie. So Lois, how about you tell us about Lottie?
So Lottie is a halfling. You can hear me, right? Just worried about
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. So Lottie is
We're all a little on
tall
edge
for a
about
halfling. She could pass as maybe like a young teenager if she didn't look like she was about 50 years old. She's got a bit of salt and pepper in her hair. Otherwise, fairly unremarkable, but very energetic, very perceptive. Possibly even a bit of shades of Columbo, if you can imagine like a Lily Tomlin-esque halfling woman embodying shades of Columbo.
Nice.
She is wearing sort of raggedy clothes. She looks like she might be trying to pass as a refugee herself. And she's been looking around specifically for something, and boy does she find it when the clockwork shows up.
Yeah, I imagine Jackaroo walks forward, and it's like I love the idea that maybe he's got like a tattered shawl over his like upper body, but he's still like, you can't hide majesty, and he's just he's just sort of striding through the people like, I'm good.
Yeah. He's worked in like in like rural environments before, so but obviously, you know, his regalness is literally built into him, so it's not something he's just going to stop doing.
No, I feel like it's a big part of his identity, but he's like he's still humble. I reckon, like he still like does his job.
Yeah.
You just can't help that he's you know, really cool looking.
In quite the contrast,
Oh God.
Amelia looks like maybe she died and came back to life between the last scene and this scene. She is like,
Wow.
She's like paper pale, has these huge dark bags under her eyes. Her clothing is tattered and worn, and her hair's like all frizzy, this sort of like dark halo of hair. And she's just sort of like trudging along next to Jackaroo, though she does have a book in her hand, and there's no sign of Victor anywhere, so I'm not sure where he's gone.
That's disconcerting.
It's like, oh, my weird snake robot's gone missing. I'm sorry, what now?
I'm sorry, what? Everyone shakes out their pants.
I think Amelia knows where
shoe.
Victor is, but no one else does.
Oh God. And how's Sly at all this?
I think Sly is just kind of maximizing the distraction of Jackaroo and just kind of like following a little bit back, just going, oh, yes, look at that crazy thing over there. I wonder what that's about. I, too, do not know anything about that.
I am equally amazed and excited by this new event that I have just seen. Oh, fantastic. All right. So Lottie, you would have already sort of obtained the various sort of essentially they're like ID tags that you can sort of give out to everyone else, and it kind of it basically says, you know, which group you're in and where you are supposed to go, so you can they can sort of coordinate everything while they are moving this group of people. And you are, like, you would have seen when you arrive, there's just, it seems like there's just hundreds of people who have clearly been brought from various like these tent cities and shanty towns. So these are people who had, you know, almost a decade ago fled their homes with very little, and they haven't exactly had a chance to gain anything since then. So they've really only have what they can carry, and so they're trying to move them in at least manageable groups, but there are still, you know, hundreds of people there, just a whole variety, mainly human, but still, like, you know, there's probably a few other, you know, occasionally they find like this here dwarf or you know, clockwork, a few goblins scattered around, and you get, when you look at this little tag, it tells you that you're in the group that will be heading to a town called Stillbend. And Lottie, you know that there are essentially 4 destinations within tier, at least for this group, that are supposed to be receiving people. And they're all relatively large towns that have all sort of been asked by the church if they can take more and have accepted. So so you'll know that the 4 towns that are Stillbend, Beast's Fall, Horace's Stand, and the East Keep are the 4 locations that these groups will end up in. So you're able, no one's really paying you any attention, so you're able to sort of just mill while you're waiting for things to start. Is there any questions you have?
So this is when we meet Lottie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So you've sort of arrived at this sort of designated muster area, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will have been told, go to the, this is the meeting point, you know, go to the, you know, this particular place. You'll see a halfling. Here's a picture of the halfling. And Lottie's
Cool.
obviously told, just look out for the horse robot.
Yeah, and I think Jackaroo walks up straight to and like makes a point of, I think he bows his head very respectfully and says, "I will do my best to be inconspicuous." And then he like kind of awkwardly takes his sword arm and tucks it behind like under some of his shawl. He's like, "I will be a refugee," and he just looks off really full on. For clockwork.
Yes, you're geared with soul. Oh my gosh. All right. So they told me I'd know I'd know it when I saw it, but man, they were not kidding. All right. So here's your paper. Man, you are shiny. That's all right.
Like got a shield in one hand and his other hand's a sword, and he holds them both out like.
Uh-oh.
How do I hold? He's like, how do I hold it?
I'll hang on to yours for you. Might be a bit easier.
You can kind of like tie it to his wrist or something, I guess, and sort of.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You have a tag now.
You got a belt?
Perhaps we can make.
Yeah, I think he does. He like looks down. He's like, "Do I?"
I mean, I'm happy for you to have like. Probably I'll have like your own sort of custom saddlebags kind of thing where like obviously designed that you can turn around and you can reach it or something.
Yeah, like he walks forward and he like sort of pushes his like saddlebags towards her, like do it there.
How do you even use those? All right.
He's like,
I'll tuck the paper into the saddlebag.
And he nods
Our
his
darling
thanks.
Jackaroo can put down the shield. He just chooses not to.
Well, you know what? That's fairly sensible in this day and age. I can't say that I blame him. Here's your slip. Do keep an eye on them. They tend to get stolen sometimes and used as currency or occasionally ransom. So just.
Ooh, are they worth much?
Depends on the
We're all
person.
gonna get robbed.
It depends on the person. It depends on the destination too. Stillbins are pretty in demand.
There's a bit of a almost kind of like a impromptu black market, I guess. I don't know if it'd be like it's probably a lot of money for people who don't have anything. Like when you don't have anything, having more than that is great. So there can be a bit of like, hey, I see that you have very little. I will take that, and you can have, And so there's a bit of that going on. But I don't know if there'd be any like actual money. There wouldn't often get actual money from it all because they just don't have that much.
Are we surrounded by other refugees at the moment?
You are sort of in like a quiet little out of the way area, but you're definitely sort of within the like the muster area, so you can see everyone sort of moving about, but no one's really paying attention to you at all.
Right. And Lottie knows that we're here for a reason, right? We're not trying to fool Lottie.
No. Lottie is your your contact. She's going to be she's essentially like in the same way in the way that like you are currently candles, in that you're not agents, but you are in the making the you are being tested to see if you can become agents. Lottie is more of a sort of a candle in the sense that when she's needed, or if she's the person in the area, then the compact can sort of like contact her and say, hey, we need you to do a mission for us.
Okie dokie.
And so she was tasked to basically get this paperwork so that the four of you would be able to move in. And then once you arrived, she was like, okay, now she joins you and helps out. So she was definitely, expecting you and knows what the deal is and what the mission is.
So
Sly's going to secrete this somewhere on his person.
Yeah, and as Amelia takes hers from Lottie, she says, "Thank you so much, sweetheart," and like leans down and kisses Lottie on the cheek. And like as she does so, Lottie, you can smell that Amelia is like quite heavily perfumed with like this mix of spices. It sort of smells like cinnamon or cloves, and there's like this hint of like wilting flowers underneath it all. It's like quite strong.
So Lottie will actually blush. But you are just the sweetest thing, dear, and let me say, you have taken this assignment to heart. You've done some meticulous work with your fitting in business. Well done. Good job.
It is not my first time amongst the downtrodden. And she just sort of like looks towards the mass of other people. How many refugees are in this sort of muster area?
It would be hundreds.
Yeah.
And it's not just it's obviously it's mainly refugees, but there are also a decent number of soldiers. Essentially, majority are soldiers from the church, the Cult of New God. So you will see a few just like what look like, what you would expect a regular soldier, but they're wearing the colors of the Holy Kingdom, and they are from the Holy Legion, which is the church's military, essentially. But there's a bit of, I guess, background on the Holy Kingdom. It is basically, in all but name, and even then, run by the Cult of the New God. They have a queen who is trying to sort of regain some political power, but it's basically just run by the church at this point. And during the Crusades up north, the church used the excuse of sending aid to the northern border to form this Holy Legion, and kind of like pressured the military of this province into joining. And so the actual military of the province is really more just like an honor guard now for the queen, and the main military is for the church. But so you'll see a lot of just like regular foot soldiers, but then there's also a lot of people who are probably would be from a group called the Order of the Hammers of Righteousness. Double check I got that correct. No, Hammers of Justice. I'm sorry. It's Hammers of Justice. One of there's 7 sacred orders of the Cult of the New God, and the Hammers of Justice are one of the 7. And they're noticeable in that they only use like blunt weaponry, but they're essentially like the next step up. They originally were the church's foot soldiers, but they are now got a slightly more important. But there's a lot of them as well. You see these guys walking around carrying like big 2-handed hammers and stuff, and obviously very busy. And then occasionally you'll see a person who just looks like a very well put, like a very important knight, like full shiny armor, sword, shield, and they seem to be more in leadership roles and commanding, and actually like sending people and delegating work and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I'll look back to Lottie and say, unless you have other information for us, perhaps we should rejoin the throng.
I can only answer questions in a limited sense, but I can try to answer anything you got for me. If I can't, I'll try to figure it out. And if I definitely can't, then we'll just wait and see.
Still, Ben, this is where the refugees are mostly going missing from?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know the numbers, haven't seen the numbers. I think people are not arriving at their destinations in a more or less equal distribution.
I see.
Yeah, it's more that the total number arriving doesn't line up with the total number leaving. And even if you account for just the fact that it is dangerous to do this, there are a lot of bad things between here and the destination. That's why there are all these church soldiers and troops here to protect this group. But it seems like, because like they are going, it's not just going into tier. This has been going on for a few months now, probably close to a year. This process has been happening. And there is always a degree of attrition, but it seems like when the group goes into tier, the numbers become higher. And in a sense that it has now drawn the attention of the compact, in that it's become a bit, they decided it was worth investigating. And like I said, because tier is important, they're going to do it personally.
Well, come on, then let us save these poor souls. And
Well,
I
she
give
sort
like that
starts
nod of
walking
assent.
back.
let's just find out what's going on first. Hang on.
So you're
As
sorry, you go.
just quickly, as we're sort of like heading back towards the group of like the throng of refugees and soldiers and stuff, I want to lean over to Sly and say, I think we should keep an eye on these so-called holy men. My guess is if there is a problem with trafficking, that it comes from within.
Ooh. Not banditry or anything.
And she sort of shrugs.
Duly noted, Amelia. You must also be looking for promotion.
One track mind.
Yeah, yeah. She sort of like furrows her eyebrows, and she just says, "Lord and Lady Forfend," and just keeps walking towards them.
I'm gonna need to look into like if there's any kind of for later on if there's like an expert path that is like an officer, or we can sort of suggest that maybe Sly moves onto that path when they get to the expert level. So you're everyone. There's sort of like your paperwork will tell you. Obviously, you've got the destination, and then you've got like they've like further grouped everyone into sort of smaller sections to make it a bit more manageable. That everyone can sort of stay within this area, and they have like a point of contact too. So it'll be easy enough to find where the group you've been put in is supposed to be. And so you can if you want you can just sort of head back there, or if you have something else in mind.
Sure. What is the kind of guard/holy man distribution compared to the refugees?
I mean, there's a lot more refugees than there are soldiers, but there are decent. Like it is very obvious that they are taking this seriously. That there's not just like a token. Like they have actually gone, all right, we've got this many people, we need this much protection, and they have gone. So it does look like they've got a pretty good sort, like enough that you sort of think, well, like they should be fine from like attacks. Like,
is there
maybe
enough that there is a degree of anonymity amongst them?
Yes, particularly amongst the lower, the regular soldiers, and even going into like the hammers. There's probably a degree of like, if you just keep your head, definitely with the soldiers, and it'd be a little bit riskier with the hammers, but even then you'd be fine. With the knights, no, there's not enough knights for there to be anonymity.
Can Jackaroo glean, as he makes his way to the small group that we're assigned to, can he make any sort of observations about how the infantry, the soldiers, seem to feel towards the refugees? Like, is there any obvious like separation, like, or are they genuinely helping them? What's the vibe?
Make a perception. Yeah, make a perception roll, but add a boon, because you have worked in like a military thing before. So
Sure. Tell me again how to add boons. I'm so off my game.
So but adding a boon is just adding a d6 to the roll. So with one boon, you could just chuck an extra d6 in. There is
20 minus 1, 21 minus 1, 20. Oh, it was the wrong d6.
Yeah, you can't get a -1 on a d6. I think
No, no. Yeah, that was, but I was adding it in my head. So if it was a 1, but I have a -1 on perception. Sorry, that was me. I just should roll things correctly.
Right. Okay. But yeah, well, you rolled a.
Oh, I see. I rolled a +- dice. Thanks, Muffin.
Yeah.
So it would have been
That's what I
22 minus 1, 21.
Yeah, you got like over 20, which is obviously fantastic.
Well,
They seem like, how to describe it? These are religious soldiers, essentially. Like their primary their primary connection is to the church rather than to any particular province. Although obviously the Holy Kingdom is, you know, for the particularly for the low end soldiers, the Holy Kingdom is where they are based and is what they connect to. But they kind of have, they're very much taking this seriously, and they are, you know, these are people in distress that they want to help. So they are very, they almost, like a lot of them, I do feel like they're particularly that they get to, you know, get out of the barracks or something, but they feel like they're being put to, you know, they're doing you know,
work.
Yeah, there's holy work. They're doing God's work kind of thing. And they're all, and so they're all very big on, like, you know, we're going to have to protect these people. That's our job. That's what we signed up for. And so everyone seems, it's a combination of, like, you know, excited, but also understanding that what they're doing is important. But also it's tying nicely into their faith. So it's, yeah. So it's very positive overall.
I think Jackaroo takes a moment to sort of share that with Lottie and Sly and Amelia. Just sort of explain that he's like, these are men of God. I know I have seen soldiers before and they behave like this. I do not think they have ill will towards these people.
Well, just because you're a person of God doesn't necessarily mean you're inclined toward the good state of any one person. But I do think you're right. I think for the most part, I'd agree. They all seem on the up and up. But this is the first time I've traveled, and I'm still looking at people and trying to read folks. But I do appreciate your take. Does anyone else have any feelings about what they're seeing here? Does anything stand out or feel weird?
Not yet, but my dealings with the church have not been as positive as Jackaroo's here.
Oh, I think he says that, like, to be clear, I have no care for mortal gods or your belief system, but I have seen men of God claim that it is why they do what they do, and usually whilst helping people or killing people, but in this case, helping people.
Very impassive.
I mean,
dig at society, I guess.
Yeah, it was a little bit.
Further to that point, I think it's important to note that while these may be soldiers of God, as devout as they may be, sometimes duty will come before concern for their fellow soul. So just keep an eye out for that too.
I think you've given, like, Jackaroo, like, a bit of a moral conundrum, because he's not necessarily the smartest, but I think he sort of tilts his head. And he actually stops. Like, he's thinking, or he's taking it in. And then he keeps walking again.
So as you sort of arrive to this sort of, like, designated area, and everyone is, like, they are now in the final stages of preparing to actually set off on this journey up into Tyr. You see this young, like quite young, probably only like late teens at most, but he is dressed in the armor and armed with this big hammer of one of the hammers of justice. And unlike a few of the others, he also has which bits of paper against kind of like pinned to his armor, and as you get closer, you might be able to tell that this is like scripture that he is sort of like connected. And as you approach, he sort of catches your eye, and he's like, "Oh, hi. Are you with me? Are you in my group? Can I see? I should look at your. Hi, sorry. My name is Oram. May I see your papers?"
I lean my butt towards him. I look at my bag, and then I hold up my hands like, can't.
He's a bit sort of like, he's like, oh, wow, I haven't seen a clockwork since I was up in the Crusader states. ha! And he sort of opens up your bag and he can see the paper, and he's like, he looks at your little tag, and he's like, yes, excellent. You're in my group. Hi, as I said, I'm Oram. I am a member of the Hammers of Justice. My job is to be your point of contact. Should you have a problem, should you need something, please feel free to come to me. If anything should go wrong, if there's an attack, if there's any kind of emergency, please follow my instructions, and we will get you to where you need to go. Do you have any questions while we have time before we set off?
As long as
now you got
How many hours
sorry, a bit of a delay. So both I had both of you at the same time. So let's go lowest. Go.
About how many hours a day are we on foot? Are we moving?
Well, obviously, we try to keep a good pace. The quicker we get there, the quicker we can settle you in for your new lives. So generally, we're looking for probably about 8 hours. Though we will stop for food and breaks, and we do understand that obviously not everyone is a soldier. Not everyone is used to that, so we will keep an eye on that. We don't want to leave anyone behind. We definitely have people who are old or sick, and so we aim for about an 8 hours, but sometimes it's less. So it definitely we play it by ear, day to day mostly. And Jamie?
Very well. No, that's all right. I think Amelia just goes along.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No.
And so, as you've gotten closer, you realize this young man. He, as I said, he is definitely as you are close enough, you can definitely tell that the pieces of paper on his armor is scripture. Which does anyone have like a religious profession?
I do not.
But I can read ancient high script.
Yeah, some of it, and some of it is probably written in that, so you can definitely read it and tell that it is the scripture of the new god. But otherwise, that's fine. You don't. It's not. I was just wondering if anyone sort of immediately knew what what you would gain from seeing someone wearing essentially scripture. And he is quite a striking looking individual. He's got very dark black hair and sort of piercing blue eyes. He's this, and as I said, he's quite young. Like, you realize when you get there, he's probably sort of in the ballpark of like 16 to 18 would be your best guess. But he does, at the same time, while he might not be used to working as like a liaison to people, he definitely is wearing he carries his maul with this sort of like practiced ease, and he's definitely comfortable in the armor that he's wearing, so he's clearly not new at this. You definitely don't get to join any of the sacred orders without at least a few years of work. So he's been doing this he probably started quite young. So he is, despite his youth, still quite a competent soldier, you would imagine. So if you don't have any other questions, we might just skip ahead to the process starting off. Before you start, there's sort of like a quick talk from one of the knights. Basically tries to address the group, and from what you can gather, I mean, obviously she's just trying to talk over this crowd, but she's clearly also, again, like, field command officers have that ability to bellow across, and so you realize this lady who you gather is Morana, is her name, and she is a member of the New Dawn, which from the briefing is kind of like, I guess it's a sect within the cult of the New God, which is certainly not uncommon. There's probably more little offshoot groups within every religion than anyone can probably bother to count. But they're actually a sect that has, in recent years, gained a lot of prominence. They've particularly done a lot of work in escorting people into Caicres so that they can allowing dignitaries to reach the capital and actually interact with Drudge and the Orcs, and trying to open up diplomatic channels, which for a while wasn't being successful. There were people there, but like they weren't really listening to him. But the New Dawn has certainly allowed more back and forth, and so that's gained them a lot of prominence. And then in this last year, this has been their initiative they sort of put together. And from what you've gathered, it's sort of they've got quite a broad mix, and like their support within the sacred orders is actually also quite varied. Like they've got a lot of support from the group called the Swords of Astrid, which are essentially the Inquisition. But at the same time, they've got a group, the group that is all about like spreading the word of the faith and passing that along. So they call the Poor Brethren and the Bearers of Faith are the two groups mainly associated with spreading that word or talking to and they're obviously not as militant, but they still have a lot of support for these groups. They've managed to get quite a diverse support, and so they are sort of like the I guess the up and comers within the church, and they've been doing this relocation stuff. And so she's clearly one of those people within that organization. And so the knights that are in leadership, they are also all part of the New Dawn. So they're the ones, as I said, leading this expedition, but they definitely all appear competent and committed, and just as much as everyone else, despite not being part of one of the sacred orders, which, to be fair, majority of the church isn't. But you set off. You set off, and as Aurum said, like they do try to march for 8 hours a day, but you have hundreds of civilians. Some of them aren't as well fed. Some of them are ill. Some of them are old or young.
I reckon
there's elders.
I thought while marching, I reckon Jackaroo offers to carry some of the weaker people on his like centaur back, like his back end.
No, they're like a lot of people. You did catch, like obviously you're supposed to sort of keep a low profile, but at the same time, like you can't. A 6-foot robot centaur is difficult to hide.
I feel like he can't help. I think in a way he looks at he's like, I have to serve it. I need to help.
Yeah, you're not drawing any more attention than you would just from seeing a clockwork. And there are other clockworks here, but people are very grateful for your offer, and the elderly are grateful, the children are excited, kind of thing. Like you are swiftly quite popular with the locals, and for the majority of the time, the journey is like relatively uneventful. You're traveling, as I said, along this gorge, which is on the western side of the group, and on the other side of the gorge is Tyr, and you're sort of making your way up to this bridge, this crossing. And it takes a couple of days, and in that time, there's no attacks or anything like that. There's definitely like there's things where, because they've got like particularly the knights, and they've got a couple of like outriders, making sure and keeping ahead. And so sometimes they'll spot someone in like at the edge of the forest or something, and they'll send out some riders to confirm what's going on, and they you're not sure, either they see him off or there just wasn't anything there. You are very impressed, particularly anyone with any kind of military background is very impressed with the way they're running this operation. It's clearly very practiced. They've been doing this, they've been organizing this now and running this for the better part of a year. So they've definitely got everything down. Aurum is very attentive making sure everyone isn't being left behind, doesn't have any problems. He seems very gracious. You in conversation with him, you discover that he is actually a crusader. He very proudly likes to say that he's third generation crusader on his mother's side, and that he grew up in what's called the Crusader States, which are a collection of essentially fortresses along the northern border of the Northern Reach. It's because it goes Northern Reach, and then above the Northern Reach is what's called the Desolation, which is not a nice place, and there's often like a lot of undead and monsters sort of pour out of there every now and again. And so the Crusaders have basically tasked themselves with being like a bulwark between that and the rest of the Empire. And so that is where he grew up, which is sort of quickly explains why he is as competent as he is while being as young as he is. But he also clearly has some healing talents. His father was a healer. But when the call came out for this process, he decided that he needed to help out. That his place was probably not in the north, at least for now, and so he's traveled down. But it is not uncommon for Crusaders to put scripture on their armor and stuff. So he keeps that up as a kind of like a touchstone to home. As you talk to him.
At some point during these couple of days, I want to find some time with Lottie and say, sweetheart, have you talked very much with Crusader Orim? He's a very chatty fellow. He's just told me his entire life story.
Yes.
He
would say that he's very proud of his history, but yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's at some point I've probably gotten the same story maybe 2 or 3 times, but he seems like a good kid.
And what about you, darling? How did you end up with the spurious honor of being our contact for this mission?
Yeah, you do some library work, get bored out of your mind, especially when all the magic-y type people are like, "Oh, it's so better than you, just find me this book." And then the constabulary drops by and says, "We need your help." And I'm like, "Oh, really? All right." But it turned out they actually did. And they liked what I did, and they paid a heck of a lot better than librarians. So I stuck with them.
So you work for local policing force? I see. You struck me as... I see. You struck me as an educated type. It is nice not to be alone. And she says, don't think too poorly of those who are interested in magic. I have a professional interest myself.
Oh, well, yeah. I should be more polite when I talk about those things. Really, it was just the snotty rich kids over at the university. They talked a lot, but didn't fire a lot of fire out of their fingers, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I know the type well. Well, I am glad to have you along.
Well, thank you. I'm actually pretty impressed with the 3 of you. They said, "Oh, they're going to give me some greenhorns." And I thought, "Oh, I'm going to be babysitting y'all," but no. I especially like your clockwork over there. That's good soul.
Oh, Jackaroo is not mine, darling.
Oh, no, I don't mean like in terms of ownership. I mean in terms of group ship. Yeah.
Group ship.
I am intrigued to see if he is as good with his hands as they say he is.
Can I interject here because I just want to share. I wanted to save him, but Jackaroo, his interesting thing is he has a reputation for being a skilled lover, and I want you to think about that because he has a sword for a hand, and he's gonna start hitting on someone. I haven't decided yet. But Jackaroo's coming for one of you.
We have a 10-foot tall cyborg.
He's not 10 foot. He's sort of like
sex robot.
He's not a sex robot. He is a skilled lover.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun rolling up the other agents that were available. And when that came up, I think I just sat there laughing for a good couple of minutes. I couldn't believe that was that was the result for the Centaur robot. I was just like, that's just actually fantastic. I can't wait. And I was like, I can't wait to see who whenever anyone's playing Jackaroo, what they do with that. And
I know. I feel like I shouldn't have announced it, and I should have just played it. But I was too excited, and the fact that you're talking about can't wait to see what I do.
I mean, it's you know, it's pretty funny.
Just you wait.
Like,
this is how you build your character, because then Marty's reaction is looking at the sword and nodding as if, yeah, he's going to be a heck of a warrior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we just
yeah. No.
I feel like
you don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Amelia may have been referring to one or the other, and no one really knows.
Yeah. He is a horse in his back end.
Yes.
Just saying.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, you, as I said, you've traveled for a while, and it is mostly uneventful to a greater extent, and then you reach this crossing, which is sort of locally known as the Span, and it is quite a large, very impressive from like an engineering standpoint. This bridge going across this huge gorge, but there also are sort of fortifications, like big sort of like you can see that there's a fortress essentially on one end, and that there's a equally impressive one on the other. And so, because this is essentially, you know, a point of access into Tyr. Like if they didn't have the bridge, the gorge would be this amazingly excellent sort of defensive feature. But because they've had to build this bridge to enable things like trade, it is a sort of a weak point in what is essentially very militant, or not militant, but like it's a province that's essentially been on like a war footing for a number of decades, because they were essentially fighting beastmen and what have, and there's all sorts of dark and horrible things that live in the forests just in general. But Tyr was had a bit of a reputation, and it was, as I said, they were quite successful. They're now were able to refocus on like building the province to be a province, but a lot of anyone of like adult age is definitely remembers, if not was involved in that kind of conflict. So everyone has that sort of military mindset. So they clearly built a bridge and went, we need to also fortify this thing. And along the bridge, you can kind of see these statues, which you've been told from like just people because everyone's been quite excitedly talking about going into Tyr. These are all sort of heroes of this conflict, of sort of taking over essentially, or clearing out Tyr. So there's all these sort of prominent heroes that they've made statues of all along the Span. But as you are approaching, and you're probably walking, Aurum might be, again, happily, obliviously chatting about, how great the Crusaders are, and he's very well-meaning, but he obviously hasn't spent a lot of time with people who aren't Crusaders. And another of the Hammers sort of comes up to him, sort of an older man, and he's like, Aurum, you need to come here. There's been a bit of I guess there's a mix-up with some of these people's paperwork. They've got the wrong forms. We need to sort this out before we go over the Span, so we know everyone's going to where they need to go. So we've been told to need to sort that out. We need hands on. So come with me.
I like immediately elbow the rest of the group and just sort of.
You run around like this. You're like,
guys.
I just sort of particularly like I'll elbow Sly, and then I'll just sort of slowly like head in that direction, not skulkily, but sort of following wherever they're going.
yeah, and I like follow behind you, trying to be inconspicuous, but so much majesty. So
So majestic, so metal.
yeah.
Much clockwork.
I'll move a bit behind them, and just try to make up any kind of just one-liners to diffuse what is clearly looking like a large clockwork following Orem to some thing he's been told to go to.
Yeah.
So are you trying to? Sorry, what was that?
It's like, no.
So I talked over you.
That's fine. Just helping to cart stuff over. That's right. Just moving some. Yeah, just helping with cargo. Yep. Nothing to see here. Nope.
Make a stealth roll. So you've got profession. Oh, you've got detective, of course. Yeah, make a agility roll, but add a boon. You're quite experienced at this, and normally this wouldn't be like tailing someone wouldn't be a problem at all. But you are trying to also cover for a 6 foot centaur robot, so it is
who looks
a little bit trickier than if you were doing it on your own.
Is that rolling a boon or with a bane?
No, it's a boon. Not like I like normally I probably wouldn't even make there be a roll, but it is just to see with the giant clockwork.
How convincing she is with her like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, just sort of like being casual and whatnot with the majestic robot.
Yeah.
So this is my first time using the fabulous fantasy grounds.
Ooh!
Yay! You will want to
roll the d20.
You'll want to put in whatever your agility modifier is into the modifier section.
Right.
On the bottom left corner, you just click on that. It should say adjusting, and then you can just put in whatever the modifier is. And then
I've
you
put in
can
a 20 into the dice pool.
Yeah, and then you can also put a d6 in there as well.
Awesome. Okay.
And then roll that.
All right. Ooh.
Oh yeah, no one pays you money, and you've been here for a while, so everyone's kind of gotten used to seeing Jackaroo, and no one gives you a second thought. You were easily able to sort of like tail the two hammers, and they seem to be a group. It seemed like few people who you probably recognize are like section liaisons, like Orem is for your group. There's other groups have come together, and then maybe a few soldiers who are sort of acting almost like running messages back and forth. So do you want to get like close enough to kind of like hear what they're saying? And
I want to sort of surreptitiously eavesdrop on what they're saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
you
listen.
sort of, yeah. So you're able to get into this conversation, and one of them is basically like he's going, look, there's supposed to be going, these people are supposed to be going to Dewhurst, and they've got East Keep whatever, so we need this list of people to get these pieces of paperwork, and we need to do it before we get across the span, so everyone is aware of what they're doing. And then Orem is sort of like, is kind of, everyone's kind of grumbling a little bit, and you hear Orem sort of saying something along the line. He's just like, man, I don't know. Every time we come into tier, there's something like this always happens. Okay, and he sort of takes a bundle of the
before
his paperwork.
Before he actually leaves to like start giving it to anyone, I actually want to walk up to the two of them.
Well, it's more than the two of them now. Like the two of them join like a group.
Okay.
You can wait for him to sort of like head off.
Yeah, I'll wait for Orem to peel off then.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. And just go up to him.
Yeah, I just sort of like fall in step with him, and I just say, "Well, what seems to be the problem, Crusader?"
Make a will roll, and
okay,
yeah, just a will roll.
Right. I have a +1. I got a 20. We are rolling.
We are high.
Good today.
Everyone, yeah. He so he sees you, and he's like, oh, look, it's it's nothing. There's been a bureaucratic mix-up with the paperwork. I don't look. I'm just a bit irritated. I shouldn't tell you this, but it feels like every time we are going into tier, this always happens. There's always suddenly it's like, oh no, there was an extra town we're supposed to go to. It's fine. We'll get the people sorted.
This place, this keep.
The East Keep. Well, that's where we were going to send, and people are still going there. But apparently, some. And he sort of looks down. He does a quick count, and he's just like, 10 people. No, 12 people were marked down for going to East Keep. They're supposed to be going to Dewhurst, which we weren't even, as far as I was aware, we weren't going to this time. But apparently they were supposed to be there, and so we need to redo their tags so everyone and explain to them where they're going. And it's not a problem. It's just tiresome.
Do you mind if I have a look at the new paperwork?
He's like, and he's calling. He's like, he shouldn't, but he's like, yeah, you're all right. So he sort of shows you.
Yeah, and he says, I was a scribe once, you see, darling. I just wanted to have a little look.
And he's like, okay. And so he shows it to you. It looks, I mean, the same as yours, really. Except
yeah,
that,
I wanted to compare it to like the ones that we've been given and see if there's any. Like,
it all seems
or anything like that.
like obviously the location is different, but it does. The information seems fine.
Okay.
So it looks like it's official.
Yeah. Yeah, it should just say, yeah, it's very, very fine scroll work. It seems to all be in order. I wonder why there was such a mix-up. And I just want to sort of like want the three of us to stay close to him as he goes to deliver that and see what kind of people are getting this changed paperwork.
Yeah, and it can you can be sort of almost like, and he might almost like, because you did roll quite well, so it might almost like he thinks it feels more like to him it's like, oh, it's his idea. He's delegated. He's like, yeah, you guys can come along, and you're like, yes, oh, I guess if you insist. Oh dear.
If it's all right with you guys, what I'd like to do is stay behind and listen to the higher ups to see if they can keep talking.
That's a good idea.
Just sort of listen to what conversation they have after Oren leaves.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll go with
so we'll do
Amelia, and I'll say I'll say to Orem, I can come and help with people who are angry. I have a soothing presence, and then I hold up my sword arm, but not aggressively, but like I do.
Yeah, it's like.
And Amelia just gives him a winning smile.
We're such a creepy pair.
Yeah.
But yep, we're gonna help people feel at ease.
And I'm assuming Amelia still looks a little bit like Death warmed up.
Yeah. But
like
I
that's
mean,
just how that's how she appears. That's her refugee look.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like she is friendly though. Like, I mean, she looks very tired and exhausted and bedraggled and whatever. But I feel like she still manages to be friendly and charming.
Oh yeah, I totally get that she's really like lovely, but almost intrusively so. Where you're like, oh, you can stop touching me. I get that you're nice. You don't need to prove it with touch.
Oh, we all know that person.
Yeah,
I'm not angry. Just please stop.
Yeah. You're lovely. Just don't touch me.
All right. So, I
think it's safe to assume that this whole time Sly was like pickpocketing people at the back.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but Zane's having some connection issues.
Oh, you love that he just looks so angry at us. He's like,
yeah,
why?
He's just staring with quiet judgment at everyone. So
yeah, I love
that's why you might not have noticed he's frozen.
I will follow you closely from behind.
And judge your every move.
Oh God! So we'll stick with Lottie. So the others follow with Aurum and start helping with this, handing out these new pieces of paper. The Lottie, what you over here while you're waiting is like once, and as I said, it's mostly just like hammers now, and obviously this just seems to be more senior members within that group. And you do, I think the most pertinent thing you overhear is that because once the like obviously Aurum was complaining a bit, and they were like sort of being a bit more we are in charge, we have to be, you have to be. But once the younger people have gone, the older people do just start like basically having the same complaints. It's like it's always whenever we go in here, why is it so difficult? And then but the more pertinent thing that you overhear is someone's like, and it's always fucking Dewhurst. Why is it so hard for the leadership to get this town in the books at the beginning? Like, why do we always find out about it at the last moment?
I am actually gonna very tentatively poke my head and like raise my hand. Excuse me. I couldn't help overhearing what you were saying, and back in better days, I was actually a bookkeeper. If you want, I can try to track down what all the errors are, so at least you got something to to go back to your higher ups and say, listen, this is wasting a lot of our time, and it's making people who are already upset even more upset. Can we do something about this problem?
And this guy, sort of, he just looks down and goes, "Look, that's very appreciated, and I would certainly love to get to the bottom of this, but unfortunately, there's nothing for you to look into. All of this is handled back in the city." And in the Holy City, we were just intercepted. We had a courier waiting for us who just passed on the message and gave us the new paperwork. So I have, there isn't anything to go over unless you go back into the city. And obviously that's not the direction we're going.
Right. Well, I'm sorry I can't help you. I wish I could, I do hope it gets fixed, but I do understand that today is not the day.
He's like, thank you for the offer. I would have if able, I would have definitely jumped at any chance to get to the bottom of this. It's frustrating.
Maybe there's an apprentice who just needs to be taken off the rolls over there. Who knows?
Maybe. It's not my.
Well,
I'm not one for paperwork.
I'm gonna. Yeah, listen, you just leave that up to people like me. As long as you keep the nasty things at bay, I'm quite happy to help out that way. I'm gonna let you go back about your business because I know you're plenty busy. But thanks for your time, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
And I will retreat to find my fellows with my new information.
Yeah. While this is going on, you've sort of handed out all these paperwork, and it's for the most part it's two families. So both of which were like husband wife with children. Most of the children were sort of, I say children, but like we're talking adult aged for the most part, although one of them is quite young. There was a little girl, and then there's another couple who just don't have any kids, so that's the 12 has been made
Are
up.
they what races are they?
Oh, they're all human.
Okay.
Okay.
And they all had been told that they were going to the East Keep, but they are now and like they were a bit confused, but ultimately they're not super fussed about where they're going. They just
so
want
long as they get to a civilized place.
Yeah, and there's a bit of Aurum definitely tries to sort of sell it as like, it's this nice town, it's trying to sort of sell this place as like you don't want to go to the Keep. The Keep's this sort of weird militant fortressy place. No, towns are much nicer, and like I said, everyone's kind of just like kind of ambivalent to the actual location and more sort of just wanting this ordeal to be over. So everyone sort of just takes it with good grace.
Yeah. After we've given the paperwork to them, I want to turn to Aurum and after we've out of hearing distance of the people, say to him, this extra town that we have to visit, Dewhurst, well, what is it like? Your honest opinion, if you don't mind, Aurum, not the marketing spiel.
And Aurum sort of thinks a bit and he goes, well, to be honest with you, I've never seen it. Every time we have a group going to Dewhurst, it's a bit off the regular path. They're located as far as I'm told, sort of near a forest, a bit north of the span, just nestled at the base of the mountains, and so it's always been a bit out of our way. So when we have a group going to Dewhurst, we are met by some locals from the town, and then they take the group the rest of the way. So all I know is what I've been told. I mean, as far as I've gathered, it sounds like a very sort of like an idyllic little location. I believe they are mostly livestock farmers, sheep and goats, that sort of thing. That's all. It's nothing of note other than that, really. So it sounds nice, but like I said, I've never seen it.
And you said
I think Jackaroo. Oh,
you go.
I was thinking Jackaroo at this point has been like standing behind and he's been following the whole time, but just silently. And then all of a sudden he says, "Well, it cannot be too idyllic. I mean, people go missing, right? Because he has no tact."
Yeah. And Aurum is like, well, I mean, here is dangerous, but so is everywhere outside of any sort of major city these days. I don't know about people going missing so much. I mean, there's a history, obviously, of beastmen in this area, but not for many years in any kind of serious numbers.
I would like to go with these people, please.
I just sort of like look up at him wide-eyed. I'll sort of look back to Orim and says, "It seems there would be more than 12."
Orb is sort of like, oh, that's not. Make a. Either one of you can make a will roll.
I
But
vote
this
Buffett.
time with it's actually actually I actually kind of feel like giving you 2 boons because you've basically befriended him quite well at this point. You've just been rolling so well. So as a little bit of fun note, given for Fantasy Grounds, because there's a I guess a community built Shadows of the Demon Lord rule set that we are using. So if you're rolling more than 1 boon or bane for that matter, you can actually use /boon or /bane, and then the number of d6s. And it will do that for you. It will automatically drop the lower dice. So if you wanted to do that because you're getting 2 boons with your will roll.
So I roll the d20 and then I'll write /boon 2. Am I rolling or is Jackaroo rolling?
You rolled. I reckon
I feel like
you seal the deal.
like he says it, then you sort of turn around and you like roll the d20 with whatever your modifier is, and then just do /boon 2d6, or it's like /boon space 2d6, I guess.
Or 10?
Oh, just enough.
Oh, good, we got those boons.
Oh,
I feel like
right.
that was me dragging you down by being so blunt.
This also this is just not at all how this is supposed to work, and you actually he's already not impressed that they've had to change the paperwork. So you're basically saying, "Oh, we're going to do this against the paperwork," but it is like I said, you've had these days to kind of befriend this guy, and you've been very successful. And so he's like, he kind of like he's biting his lip, and he's like, "Oh, it's not really what we're supposed to."
Please.
Yeah, I just shrug and smile.
It's fine.
Please.
We won't tell anyone. Your group, when this happens, feel free to just peel off, and we won't say anything. And he sort of gives you a bit of a wink.
Oh my God! Perfect timing. Jackaroo's gonna wink back.
It's sort of. It's sort of like, why was that? That was more disconcerting than I was expecting. Okay. I have things to do. I have work. And he just turns around and walks away. Which is probably when Lottie catches up.
Lottie, we are going to Dewhurst.
Oh, that's funny, because I was just going to suggest that, actually.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think...
So, I was... You first. You tell me your news first.
That's all.
All right, fair enough. So I was listening into to the higher-ups after Orem left, and even though they were trying to be all prim and proper while he was there, telling them to pipe down, once he left, they started making noises about the same thing. So I kind of stepped in and I asked some questions and was able to determine that the problem is always Dewhurst, and that it's always papers coming in from the Holy City and a courier waiting here at the bridge to give them new orders. But it's always
This is very
Dewhurst.
curious. I think it is good that you made this presumption, Jackaroo.
I think he's like, I really wanted to go with the nice families back there.
I was going to maybe suggest we try and switch paperwork with them, but if Orem seems okay with us just abandoning the train, I think we should be okay.
That's good, because I would hate to break up those families, because families are like bubbles, and you don't pop the bubble.
That is very true.
Everyone's like, yes.
And I think he does his majestic walk back to the families.
I am with you now. So you set off again once this delay has been sorted, and you cross the bridge. And as I said, it's got this big, almost like sort of fortress checkpoint at the front, which obviously you were able to get through quite easily. They're expecting you, and they can sort that out. Morana obviously has a sort of has a quick word with someone like seems to be like one of the guards, the person in charge of there, and they sort of exchange pleasantries and just keep going. It is once you actually get, like, you could see it as you're approaching, but once you're actually there, you realize it is actually very impressive. Like, as I said, not just from like an engineering standpoint, but like just the grandeur of the whole thing. These statues are much bigger than you expected, and they're all kind of looming, and you can sort of, as you walk past, you can sort of catch sight of that little nameplates. You can see it's not quite, not really there long enough to sort of pore over them, but clearly these are all important people. And you make it across the bridge, and as expected, you a little bit down the way, Orem comes up again and goes, "It's time to go meet the people from Dewhurst. We'll break off, and then I will go rejoin the main group once you're underway." And he takes you and the other 12 people over into meets, and there's a group there of like essentially like villagers. They're probably what amounts to them, like probably the local militia or like the local guard for Dewhurst, but they're mostly armed with like clubs or anything. They clearly weren't a group that's accustomed to having to deal with anything serious, but like they're the ones who are obviously going to know the way, and so there's a bit of a introduction, and one of them sort of steps up, and he sort of comes up to Orem, and he's like, my name is Thompson. Good to meet you. I will be taking responsibility now, I guess." And he's clearly like trying to be very formal and very sort of like, this is a proper military handover thing, and he wants to be important, but he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's quite uncomfortable. But he's just like, yep. And he's trying to like do his best sort of impression of standing at attention and stuff, where everyone else is kind of just like milling and kind of looking over them and just being like, okay. And Orem is just, Orem is very, very polite, and he's just sort of like, yes, this is the group. Thank you very much for your assistance in this venture. May the new god watch over you. And they sort of shake hands, and then Orem turns back to you guys, and he just says, "It was an absolute pleasure having a chance to meet you. I hope you have every success in your new life in Dewhurst." And he sort of shakes each of your hands one by one.
He goes to shake mine, and I'm like, shield, sword, and I just nod my head at him.
He's just sort of like, and then kind of just like pats your arm with his outreached hand. He's just like, "I understand." And he sort of keeps going. And
Oren gets a hug.
And
Oren doesn't get with a handshake.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a bit sort of taken aback initially, but he definitely returns it, and he smiles, and he's like,
"She's
well,
deal.
I need to get back." And he sort of nods, and he's like, Okay, and then he sort of turns around and heads back to catch up with the main group as they continue off into tier.
As he leaves, I sort of look over at Lottie and I say, Lord and Lady protects that one. He's going to need it if anything ever happens to that train.
Yeah. Yep.
Thompson says, right, my name is Thompson. No, I said that. Follow me, and we should be arriving in Dewhurst before dusk. And he sort of turns and sort of starts marching back up north ways away from the span. Now, still following the gorge roughly. But now it's on your other side, obviously, because you crossed the bridge.
While we're walking, I want the young child to be riding on my butt.
Oh, she's absolutely thrilled.
Yay!
Like I said, like probably potentially like over this journey, she's potentially even heard of this and been like, oh, there's this clockwork who gives like horse rides, and she's like, what? That sounds amazing. So she is that's absolutely beside herself. I'm just sort of giggling and clapping as she continues on.
A saddle, or is this like?
In my mind, I kind of do because of that banding I got. I reckon part of that was some sort of,
So
maybe
sort
not
of
even
like-
full saddle. It might be like a leather saddle blanket-esque thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
'Cause
so you're
otherwise-
basically wearing something that was designed for a horse.
Bareback.
Yes,
Yes.
and
yeah.
so it is.
That's what you said. Yeah.
Definitely has. Yeah. So it's probably. I mean, you've got like almost like the blanket, but then more protective. So it's definitely going to find purchase, and it's not as uncomfortable as just riding directly on metal might be.
Metal.
Yeah. Bare metal.
Zane is still having all kinds of problems, unfortunately. But
That's all right.
you
Sly is
quickly-
with us, but skulking around.
yeah.
I reckon. Yeah, he's doing that
he's-
thing where he just blends
he's
into
the-
the shadows,
he's-
observing.
He's the best rogue. No one can see him.
Yeah.
Um,
Like not even here.
it isn't.
How many coppers that he pickpocketed and all
It's
that
like-
time.
So then you suddenly realize I have less money than I started with. Why is that? Oh, Sly. You in a few hours of walking, you do sort of reach the edge of this forest, and you kind of make your way. What am I saying? Like through, and I'm sort of realizing now I completely misspoke. It's actually next to the gorge, not next to a mountain.
Oh.
So,
Gotcha.
but they're sort of direct. You can see from what this guy's talking about. But you do sort of enter the forest as you go through, and at this point, your sort of impromptu guards do fan out a little bit. They are sort of a bit wary, and it is sort of like, all right, you all need to be on alert. This is we don't normally have any kind of trouble, but it's always pays to be on your guard. And you sort of make your way into this forest, and you keep sort of walking, and it is sort of a bit foreboding. As soon as you sort of get inside, it does sort of feel like it's a lot darker and a lot more closed in than it actually should be from like how the trees are spaced. But you keep going in, and you eventually kind of reach a clearing, at which point Thompson sort of stops the group, and he just sort of says, did anyone else and he kind of points to a couple of the guys, and he's like, you and you with me, the others watch our group. And they sort of head off into the forest, and he kind of
I do the classic
It's just-
PC eye language with the rest of the group.
yeah, bro, like where yeah, I mean, like it's almost like your agents looking out for anything weird, and it's like, hey, look, something weird.
Yeah.
It's only a few minutes when you suddenly just you hear this cry from probably it's not Thompson, but it might be one of the others. And at which point, it seemed I guess slightly panicked, which causes the rest of the group that were there with you to race off after them to try and find out what was going on. And they kind of just left this group in this clearing.
Are you kidding me?
I think for a second, Jack is actually, because he's impulsive, like goes to race after with, and he's like, yeah, and then like sort of stops and like looks back at the group. Like,
I imagine like Sly stepped out to stop you.
Puts the child back down.
Yes. Oh yeah, and then it's like yeah, this poor child's like clinging and hanging off the side of the armor, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
I should stay. Oh, and like backs up slowly towards the group. Like, I think if he could be embarrassed as a clockwork, he's kind of like, okay.
Our responsibility is to these people.
I want people to make perception rolls. Everyone can just
good at that
make those rolls.
I'm bad at that one.
Woo! Aww. Man, so
I got a 17.
Special props.
I got 15.
I see Elvis. That's what I see.
So yeah, just
Elvis,
after
my
you sort of you put down, you put this child back with their, return this child to their family, and you sort of wait, and then both Jackaroo and Amelia, you kind of start hearing this kind of guttural sound that appears becoming. It seems to start from the opposite direction from where the others ran to, but it definitely feels like it's spreading out around this clearing. And as it seems to getting closer and closer, it starts to sound like almost like you feel like it's definitely a language, but it's not a language that any of you, and I'm just going to double check to confirm that that's true.
Speak common.
It's not a language.
I don't know.
Sly speaks.
Oh,
speech,
I take it back. Yeah, Sly understands.
Ooh.
As soon as we hear the growling stuff, just before you tell Sly what it means, I turn to the refugees and I say, unless you can fight, stay behind us. And like Jackaroo and I imagine we sort of like fan out into a circle protecting the refugees.
I think military takes over. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so Sly. Sorry, you go.
I say Victor, and there's like this weird moment where like Amelia's armor seems to sort of like sag as if she no longer fills it out completely, and Victor like slithers out from. He's been wrapped around her the entire time. And as he comes out, yeah, like as he slithers out, his back opens up, and this pick, like this weapon, just comes out of his back, and she just like reaches down and takes it from him.
Oh,
wow.
Badass!
Yeah, I'm definitely distracted by that. That is why I don't see or hear anything else.
Yeah, that's
so Sly also does not immediately hear this. Once you also like pointed out, like, hey, this is a thing that's happening. He does sort of start listening, and very quiet. He's like, and he's obviously, it's Sly. He's filled with bluster and talk of promotion. But at this point, he gets sort of a bit more concerned. He's like, that's the dark speech.
Oh.
And he's just sort of, and he's just like, and he sort of starts listening, and he's like, it just says they're just repeating after. They're repeating "encircle the meat," and you can sort of, it's getting louder and louder, and you can see that they are just sort of repeating.
Do any of these other refugees like have weapons, or they all just cower behind us?
No, they none of them look like they are at all combat capable.
Do I have anything to throw at them? Can I? Sorry. Just quickly, can Jack quickly? This is funny because this is the first time you see, like, he actually slides. It's like he's gone into serious mode. He slides his shield sort of band down his arm, so his hand's free. Reaches into his pack and pulls out a cloak and puts it, like, it's massive, obviously, because it's his cloak apparently. And I say he throws it over the smallest child, and like gets them to duck down, and then goes back to facing the fight. Like, so she's kind of hidden under a cloak.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just all he's got to hide
sort of,
anyone, but I reckon that's what he would do.
And I look at the group and I say, can any of you fight if I give you a weapon?
They all just sort of,
I got my own.
They all look terrified, and they're sort of shaking their head and sort of, and one of them sort of finally just says, "It's like, we're just farmers. We ran away because we couldn't fight."
Very well.
And then as you have sort of returned back to listen to this voice, you start seeing coming out of the forest, almost like appearing from the darkness. Initially, they seem like humanoid shapes. You sort of almost for a second wonder if it's the people, if it's these villagers that you were with. But as soon as they actually get a good look at them, you realize that despite having very humanoid body, their heads are all they all have like goat heads, and you realize these are definitely beastmen.
Just for my out of character reference, are beastmen, are they shape changes, or are they like they're always like this?
They're always like that. They're there's a lot of stories about how beastmen came to be. They are an ever-present threat throughout the Empire, particularly in the forests and whatnot. But Tyr obviously had a big problem with them. Down south in the marshlands, it's a big problem. In other areas, there is a variety of beastmen, and the only sort of like common element is these sort of they're different animal heads and humanoid bodies to a various extent. Like these ones seem more humanoid with their bodies, but definitely have like these goat heads, where you've definitely heard stories of others which are much more bestial. And if anyone has like if anyone has kind of like an occult profession or double check Sly. No. So maybe make if you're trying to make it like an intelligence roll to try and
I meant some magical theory, but not.
If you feel like you might be able to, magical theory might, have a roll to see what you can recall about beastmen, other than like the general sort of stuff.
Like Lottie as a librarian might know more about this than I would, to be honest.
Yeah. I bet Lottie's got experience like from the archives in what they are.
Well, I might certainly have some.
Why don't you roll?
knowledge.
Yeah, you roll.
Sure. Let me just remember if I have enough smarts to add me a point. I do! Okay. Come on, dice roller. Play along. There we go. Barely.
Yeah, so you and actually Sly also sort of pipes in with a little bit of information. So between the two of you, you sort of very quickly convey to the rest that these are known. These are called Fomor. They are essentially the lowest form of beastmen, and they are typified by having goat features. Essentially, you do know that they are renowned for being kind of craven, and so if you can kind of try and get to the point where you outnumber them, they might sort of just cut and run if they don't feel like they have a superior position. However, as they sort of move into view, and you see like three of them walk up, and then behind them another one comes in, and this one seems different. The other ones are sort of like, as I said, these craven sort of crawling, sort of hunched things that are sort of like salivating, and as they stare at this group. But this other one walks in with much more of a sense of purpose, much more knowledgeable. And this one, while the other ones are carrying like tattered and probably stolen spears and whatnot, this one actually has a kind of this staff with like skulls strapped to it and all sorts. And there's just this very menacing air that comes from this one. And
as soon as
it's clearly
I see that one,
yeah,
I want to pull a scroll out and read it, if possible. Or
yeah,
if
please.
if that's like a combat action. Yeah, so I pull out this scroll and
You know, just before you get into combat, yeah.
Yeah, I start muttering the incantation on it, and this shield sort of like magically appears in my hand. I'm gonna conjure a useful item and have a shield for this fight.
Hey.
Yeah, fantastic. So as you read through it, basically sort of like the scroll, as you sort of read, sort of crumbles to nothing, but then at the same time this shield also just sort of forms in the air, and you sort of just pluck it out, and you have a shield.
So at this point, how many of the creatures are we looking at? How many have emerged, including the like knowledgeable one?
It's about 4 at this point.
Okay.
These the 3 sort of ones with, like, as I said, like very their armor looks old and tattered. They've got like these clearly sort of like uncared for weapons and whatnot. And then there's this other one that's behind them. It seems to be saying something else, which, you know, Sly could probably whisper that he's kind of, it seems to be just chanting. It's not making, like, there are dark speech scattered through it, but it's probably something he guesses magical.
Okay.
Rather than any kind of like order or something like that. And then we will jump into combat. So
yeah, I was gonna say, because I'm gonna start charging at that thing.
Yeah, so for anyone who didn't watch last week, the way combat works in Shadows of the Demon Lord is that you have fast rounds and slow rounds. Fast rounds obviously go first, and you get an action or a movement. Slow rounds get both action and movement. Player characters always go first, and you kind of just jump in. There's no real assigned order. Just jump in when you want to do your thing. Once we've finished everyone who's doing fast actions, we move into slow round. Everyone again jumps in, and then we go through. So speaking of, does anyone want to do something in the fast round?
Nope.
How far away are they?
We've already drawn our weapons.
They're on the edge of this clearing, so there's probably like slightly under 10 yards or 10 meters, essentially.
Right. Is that like, so that's like throwing range, but or like one movement action?
It's probably, I think it's one movement for just about everyone. Not 100% about the halfling. And then throwing range is, I'll double check what short range actually is. Oh, where is it? Short range is 5. It's 5 yards.
Okay.
Medium range is like 20. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd have to close in a bit before I could throw something. That's okay.
Yes, I mean you could do like a longer. If you try to go like up to like twice your maximum range, you can do it with a Bane, but otherwise, yeah, you'll need to be closer. And really, if you are planning to charge is an action you could take. So in the fast round, you could just charge, which means you can move and attack, but you will get a Bane on that.
I will get a Bane.
So if you want to,
you know what?
I will.
Well, this is the thing. I was thinking that, but I feel like roleplay wise, I feel like that's what my trait is. Impulsive. His negative trait is impulsive, so I reckon he's going to charge and take the Bane.
All right.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I still get my modifier on it for attacking. Let me double check. Sorry, let me open up. I should have been looking at that.
Yeah, so you'll roll a d20, add your strength, but then you'll subtract a d6 from that roll.
Yeah. So adjusting +1. So 19 minus my d6. Sorry, I'm gonna do this by hand. So I only rolled a 1, so it dings it down to 19.
Yeah. You charge up to the nearest. Now, are you charging one of the regular ones, or are you charging the?
No, I wanted to go for the big Kahuna. I think the one that looks most dominant, because he's military minded. So he's like, I'm taking out that guy.
So it doesn't look like he was expecting, obviously, you just in general, but also this sudden. So he is taking, and then you slam your sword into this guy. So I think it's like 2d6 plus 2
plus 2, correct. 2. Sorry, I roll this all individually. I don't know why I do that. It's just a mental thing. 2 plus 4 plus 2. It's like I like throwing them on the screen. So for me, that's 6 points of damage because it's 2 plus 4 plus 2.
So it's sort of the creature sort of manages to get the staff roughly in the way, so it's not like this sort of killing blow, but it drops almost to a knee at this massive machine, just slams his sword down, and it's clearly shaken by what has just happened.
Clockwork Centaur just ran in it and was like, yee! That's my turn.
And anyone else doing a fast action?
Yeah. I'm gonna take the quick action. I'm gonna stay here to defend the refugees in case the other ones charge. So I'm gonna stand in front of the refugees and take the defend action, which means all attacks against me get a Bane. But then I'm gonna gesture for, like, I sort of like point towards where Jackaroo has run off, and I go, and I just say Victor, and my snake construct runs after you, and is gonna snap. He's gonna attempt to bite the same beast man thingy.
Yep.
So he has +3 to hit. 3. 11.
No, he's not quite able to sort of find a soft place to bite this weird this creature, and he's able, so he doesn't actually get enough purchase to do damage.
Okay.
Lottie, are you doing anything, or you want to wait for the slow round?
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait for the slow round, because what I want to do is because I figure these guys are going to be opportunists, and either they will try to defend their leader, or if they don't, one of them might try to get the meat anyway, and I want to be the person in between the opportunist and us. So I'm gonna go on a slow move, so that I have on a slow action, so that I have a move and then an action attack.
Cool. So the similar to Jackaroo a bit. They're not exactly patient creatures, and so the three 3 former with the tattered armor and whatnot are just going to sort of charge forward. One of them is going after Jackaroo, and the other two sort of do make their way towards this group. And so just before the combat started, Lottie, were you between? Would you say you're between where these creatures are and the group, or are you sort of off to the side, or where are you in relation?
I would have.
I think the two of us were sort of
behind the group because you're in a clearing, you hear noises. I think ambush, so I would have put myself behind the group.
Then I'm probably in between them and the group because that's what I wanted to stand in defense of them.
Yeah, one of them is definitely going after you, Amelia. The other one is going into the cuddling farmers. And so where are we? There we are. Okay, so the one that is attacking Jackaroo will. What's your defense?
13.
13. So he lands a blow with its sort of rusty spear and does 3 damage.
Okie doke.
Whereas the one against Amelia will what's your? I'm assuming what's your defense, Amelia?
12, but they have a bane. Wait.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because you're on defend.
11, but they have a bane.
Nice.
So the one that's running at you clearly expected the other one to come with it, and as soon as it realizes that's not the case, it kind of loses its enthusiasm for this attack, and it's kind of just like, and it completely whiffs the strike, and then the one that's going after the
so mixed amongst the farmers is Sly. I'm
assuming Sly has the sort of
with his dagger ready to stab.
Yeah, and given so it seems like there's been a bit of the first one that attacked you, Amelia, felt the other one was going to help him, but the other one thought that was going to get assistance. So they both, once they realize they're attacking on their own, are clearly off-put by this. And even though it's just sort of the people are able to scurry backwards in time for this spear to just slam into the ground and not actually have any useful impact. At which point we will move into the slow turns. So Lottie, what are you up to?
I want to intercept the Fomor who is going after the undefended travelers, the farmers.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm looking at Rogue because this is the first time I've played a Rogue, and I have a cool thing called Trickery.
Yes.
And I want to use that because that gives me once per round.
Yes.
I get to roll with a boon. And I think
and you do extra damage
right now. Yeah.
So it's rolling with a boon and doing extra damage. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, to roll.
I'll roll the boon.
Probably.
No,
agility.
Boon. I don't have to worry. I'll grab that over there. All right. Attack.
For 12. That is you sort of taking advantage of the fact that it's off-put by this mixed communication. You managed to get a good blow in. So roll damage, and you get to roll an extra d6. So with the short sword, it's 2d6.
Yay! Oh, please roll well. I'll take.
Oh yeah, you did.
Bam! Yeah, you cut deep into this thing, and it just sort of lets out this clearly inhuman bellow of pain, and then but it sort of turns and is just glaring at you.
It's still alive?
So
it's not. Yeah, it doesn't die, but it is like
it's not
it's not happy.
the adrenaline and fear is now like way up. So now Lottie is shrieking at it halfway unintelligibly, but a lot of it is like, yeah, that's right. You come get me. Come get me. That's right. That's right. Me, not them. Me.
While it's distracted, can Sly stab it in the back as well?
I was about to say that Sly takes advantage to do essentially the same thing, as he is also a rogue. So he will. I'm just going to check. Yep.
Here's a
okay.
dagger.
I'll just quickly roll that. Unfortunately, he is not as successful. He isn't able to land a solid blow. I think this creature, as he's trying, is sort of backed up a little bit to give itself a bit of room, and so he's not able to. Even though he springs out of the group, he wasn't able to He misjudges the strike distance essentially, and just doesn't land a hit.
Okay.
At which point during this this scream, this leader creature takes it is sort of like a momentary distraction when you sort of for Jackaroo, and this creature uses that to sort of manage to twist away from you, and sort of steps back a slight distance, and it starts to sort of chant quicker and quicker until it sort of throws. If I could just find the damn thing. Oh, God, what's it called? Fuck. Why is this not working? Oh, okay. Because I'm an idiot. That's why it's not working. Yeah, it throws up. It throws its hands into the air, and it sends just this bolt of fire hurtling.
Does it stepping back? Are there opportunity attacks on that?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to look up then.
Normally there would be, but he's not actually moved very far. He's used the disengage move.
Okay. Right.
And so has able to sort of is sort of getting away, and is sort of quickly sort of using this to sort of skitter away. And
is disengage an action though?
There's there's a special movement.
Yeah, I feel like he has to
spend... You're right. I'm sorry. Yes. So that will be his turn then. He'll just sort of relocate,
disengage,
and disengage from this creature and move. Sort of tries to circle round to try and put some distance between you, and he's also just kind of leaving this other creature to fend for itself.
Okay.
And we go to the top of the next round, and back to the fast rounds. So who wants to take a fast?
Amelia's going to take a fast to guarded attack the one that's attacking her. So she attacks with a Bane, but it also gets a Bane against her.
It also attacks.
Creatures attack me gets with a Bane.
Yes.
The next creature to attack me also gets a Bane. All right. So I'm going to roll. I don't have an adjustment. How do I? Yeah, there we go. I got a natural 20, but I have a Bane.
Wait.
So it's a 15.
15, still good. So despite focusing on defense, you were still able to cut into this creature. How much damage did you do?
8.
Nice.
8 damage.
Yeah.
I just
solid blow.
Slam the pick into its shoulder, and then immediately tear it out and bring the shield up.
Yeah, it's again just screaming in pain. Lottie, were you making fast or slow? What was your plan?
I'm actually going to go slow because I think that means I can make 2 attacks should I want to.
No, it's basically
No? Okay.
you. Fast is you get to do action or move, and slow is get to do both. So it's not like you can't just do 2 actions. I mean, they're definitely like I think warriors eventually get the ability to attack twice, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? I will go slow because I want the ability to, if I do hit this guy and kill him, I want to get back and be ready to do something.
Want to relocate?
Yeah.
All good. Okay, so Jack, you were going. You going slow or fast?
Slow.
All right. Sly is going to go fast.
Yeah, Victor's also
and again going to try and stab this creature with success, and so
Yay.
does kind of just like manages to sort of slip this knife between the armor and gets again a good one, and it just the scream this time is cut short and turns into a gurgle as it drops to the ground, and so the beastman that had tried to attack the civilians slumps to the ground dead.
Yes.
The one on Jack is also is.
I still have one thing before it does anything. So Victor's gonna make an unbalancing attack against that one. The one.
Right, I forgot about Victor. Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
So it's an attack with a bane, but if it succeeds, the beastman needs to make an agility challenge, and on a fail will fall prone.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Never mind.
Oh.
It's
That would have been cool though.
it's a 1.
Yeah. No. Said creature will, like, at this point possibly hadn't even noticed Victor at that point. So now that it sees that it's fighting these 2 machines, it's clearly freaking out. It's definitely thinking about running, and I think it catches the eye of the leader and sort of has to grip its weapon a little tighter, and it tries to hit Jack and just completely whiffs. Also gets a 1 with its banes. And we'll move into slow. Yes, move into slow. So
Jack is gonna risk the opportunity attack and the triggered attack and make a break for the leader again. So with his movement.
Okay.
Aware that one standing next to me is going to get a chance to hit.
What was your defense again?
13.
13. So as you turn, it does manage to hit you, but it's only like a glancing blow, and only does 1 point of damage.
It's all right. I will take that 1 point of damage.
To hit.
Damn. And then I'm gonna go for the leader, assuming I can reach him. But I've got a speed of 12, so I don't imagine he got further than that.
No, you are faster than this creature.
Cool. And then I'm gonna get there, and I'm going to just attempt a straight up attack.
All right.
So that will be just a d20. Oh, fruitcake. That's a miss. Even with my +2, that's 5.
That is a miss. Yes.
Oh, wait.
You don't.
How close? Wait, how close is Jack to me? How close is Jack to me? Because another.
Quite a way. I think.
What halflings can do is I can give a re-roll if you're within.
Ooh.
I forget the term. Close range.
Let's see.
Close is 5 yards, so that's very close. But if it's short, then
I'm.
Oh, but you didn't roll a 1. Pooh. Ah.
Oh, there you go. No.
It's on the on.
Right.
Cool though. No, that's good to know.
Yeah, definitely remember that, and feel free to ask me for it because I'm happy for other people to be like, please. That's fine.
Damn. Oh well, that's Jack's turn. I think he got thrown off by getting the glancing blow, so doesn't quite manage it.
Yeah. I mean, we are going to move on to that does lead nicely into Lottie for your turn.
Excellent. So I will salute Sly with my sword because Sly has murdered the opponent that was trying to murder me. And then I will turn around to find the next closest target, which I'm not sure.
Which would be the 4 more on Amelia.
On Amelia, okay. And then I will shriek, "This meat has teeth!" And try to
love it so much.
Murder.
Wholeheartedly murder. Yes.
The Homor who is trying to kill Amelia, because that is not what we do in this group. That is not what we do. We do not murder our friend. So let me get back to 20. Come on. I'm waiting for the adjustment to click. There we go. And I'm using my boon because why the heck would I not use my boon? Let's be honest.
I mean, yeah. Ooh, no.
Well, I
bugger.
think I might have used the wrong D6.
Oh, you used the plus/minus dice.
did.
Yeah, I did that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Though you rolled a 1 on the
I will-
D20, so that's the D6 isn't going to help you.
But
Unless you
I'm
can-
within
can you
short
re-roll
range of
it?
myself.
Yes, but it was what I was going to say. So actually, just re-roll the whole thing because it's the
Yeah.
wrong boon. And
No problem.
Well, hey, it's coming in handy
So let
now.
me grab the correct D6. There we go. Nice.
Come on, come on,
Fantastic.
come on. You could do it. You could do it. Hey, that's more like it.
Bam! Much more like it. That one, yes, you do hit. So roll damage, add a D6.
Ooh.
Dead.
Yeah.
Just slamming your sword into this thing's back, and it just drops down dead. At which point, like seeing this, the leader is just going to he again just breaks off and then just makes a break for the back into the tree line and just completely just runs away. Seeming it's trying to get as far away as it can from the surprisingly resilient people, what you just wasn't expecting. And kind of just leaving the third one on its lonesome. So we go to the top of the round and there's just one left. It's got Victor's still on that one, but does anyone else want to do anything in the fast round?
I'll roll Victor's. He's just going to do a normal attack since he's there. No, he misses again.
Nah.
It's been used to.
Fast, I'll do the charge action. So that's rolling with the Bane, correct?
Yes.
How do I use the dice pool? How am I rolling?
So next to your little line of dice, there's like you can just drag the dice into the dice pool.
Yeah, I've done that. What do I press to make it roll?
Then you basically like with the dice, you just drag from the pool out onto the thing and roll down.
Oh, and then I throw them together. Well, that didn't hit.
Yes, but
That's a
no,
9.
yes.
Oh.
So
It's not a
it
9.
is.
That's
Wait,
your
wait,
Bane,
wait,
right?
Oh, no, I used mine.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
Also,
no,
I'm
that
out of
was-
your reach.
That's
Wait, hang on.
that's
no,
actually
is it new
because that was a
round?
Oh, it is a new round.
It's a new
Does it go
yeah
every round?
yeah.
And is that a 1?
Um,
Well, then why don't you just re-roll that then?
You'll have to
Am I
roll
within
really well on
range? You
that
have
20
negative
because
6,
that 6 is a bane, not a boon. So
Yeah.
it should have been.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
negative.
I should have put that as a negative. So, -6 from whatever I roll on this, which was
yes.
a 4. Cool. Did it roll? Oh, it didn't roll. Sorry, no, I just dropped it. Oh, there I go. Wait,
yeah,
did I?
you-
No.
Yeah, there
There it is.
No, it did. It did go. Okay, 4. Sorry, mine's having a little
yeah.
bit of a hiccup on Fantasy Grounds over this end.
Oh, fantastic! Technical problems abound.
It's fine. It's just every now and again I don't see the rolls, but it's all good.
Yeah.
You're narrating. I get it.
You don't hit, but this creature has gone from this sort of like this, obviously this excited screaming that it was doing earlier, and it's now just kind of whimpering.
Yay! Whimper away, you bitch.
Yeah.
Wow.
I look at Lottie and I say, "Thank you for your help, darling." And I'm gonna take a slow action. So.
Okay. Is everyone else going on slow, or anyone else has anything they want to do for the fast round?
Yeah, I'm happy to go on slow.
Well, this creature is actually going to go fast, and it is going to just sprint away as fast as possible. But that does mean that Jackaroo and Victor can make opportunity attacks, should they want to, as it tries to flee into the.
I would like to.
Yeah, so just regular attacks for both of you.
I rolled an 11.
And I rolled a 10.
No. So it manages to escape, with speed born of fear, and it just darts off in the same direction as the leader did, and quickly is out of sight as you flee as it flees. At which point we will end combat.
Okay.
Great. I think Jack trots back up and he does that thing where he shrugs his shield down his arm. So he's always been able to use his hand, but I feel like he just forgets. And then he picks up the cloak and looks under at the little girl, and he's like, "Come out, little girl. I am a soothing presence."
She sort of crawls, and then she's staring up to me, and she's just like, "Are they gone?"
Two of them are dead over there, but some of them are gone. Yes.
And when she glances over at these sort of beastman corpses, she sort of, stifles a bit of a cry, but then just kind of crawls and just sort of grips Jackaroo's leg, and just trying to put the leg between them and the thing, and she's just sort of gripping, and just hiding her face essentially. Everyone else is kind of a bit stunned, and as they sort of kind of calm themselves, they'll just what? I don't. They're all just confused. It's I don't. Why?
Yeah.
What happened? I don't.
The real question is whether the guards abandoned us on purpose.
That's right. We'll need to go and investigate the forest to see if their bodies are there. Alive and scared, or dead and not scared.
Well, but we need to get these people to a safe place first.
My guess is that Dewhurst is not that safe place. Perhaps we should attempt to rejoin the refugee train. Otherwise, we will have to take them back to...
The
and
bridge.
I just look at Sly, and I look at the refugees, and I look at everyone. I'm like, where we are from.
Everyone, no one has any objections to this. They're clearly deferring to you, and now you're the ones who seem to know what you're doing, and they're just like, "Oh, yes, okay." So, did you want to just immediately take these people away, or did you want to try and see if you could find?
I reckon I'd do a perimeter run and look for the bodies of the guards.
I'll go with Jackaroo to help look, but yeah, I maybe suggest that Sly and Lottie keep a watch on them just in case those beastmen come back.
Yeah.
I think it's important to. I do think it's important to determine whether the guards have actually been attacked and were genuinely afraid, or if
or if they've run off. Yeah. Agreed.
So you can head out in. So anyone who wants to, if Sly and Lottie can stay with, are staying with this group, and then Jackaroo and Amelia can head out to find it. So I want someone make a perception roll, but you add 2 boons to it with working together, and you both sort of.
I say Amelia.
Vaguely,
you make that roll.
Vaguely relevant
Yeah, I'm imagining, like, would this be an occasion where I ride Jackaroo while we're like riding through the forest trying to find things?
Oh my god, yeah, totally.
Okay.
Because I'm faster. We cover more
Yes.
ground. We want to be quick because
Yeah.
we want to get out of there. I reckon you're on me and I'm like, so I'm looking, but you're more looking. I'm just getting us through.
Okay.
Yeah.
18.
Fantastic. Yes. You sort of make your way, and it is quite clear that you find this sort of you find where they were. Like it's immediately apparent to both of you that there was no struggle, there was nothing. They basically came to this point, stopped, obviously waited for the next group to turn up, and then they've just head off in what would vaguely you would feel is probably the direction of Dewhurst.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. I reckon Jack is going to turn to Amelia and just say, I think they were not actually men of God. Maybe men of cruelty.
This certainly seems to be the case. However, we should report back to the others.
As you go back, you do sort of notice, because you did roll quite well. You see almost kind of what is like almost like a what's the thing, like I guess like a fetish, like a sort of like something's being built and sort of like hung up in like a tree, and these little like crude designs, and you sort of notice one that's been sort of not hidden, but it's like it's a bit out of the way, a bit up in the tree, and then once you notice one, you realize you can start seeing others once you know what to look for.
Yeah. What do they look like?
It's it's sort of like an oval, a sort of a vertical oval with a circle in the center, and variations on that theme. Essentially, like they're all sort of like quite crudely done, but they are all, and some of them are like inside another circle, and some of them have other little like add-ons to that. But the common theme is this vertical sort of oval shape with a circle in the middle.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's take note and take it back. But I suggest we get these people somewhere safe, perhaps back to the keep. And actually, you're right, where we're from. Better.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd defer to Sly on where we should take these people ultimately, but I imagine Sly thinks that our mission is not to go and investigate this town, but to save these people and take them somewhere safe. So,
yeah, the keep is, definitely closer. You're a fair while away from Bollard, but right. You are. It's probably only a few days to get to the keep, but at the same time, if you keep going into the night a little bit, you're only a few hours behind the main group, and so you could probably catch up to them.
We'll push pretty hard to catch up to them.
Yeah. Which I think is where we all end off.
Okie doke.
Yeah.
We're 5 minutes off the end of the episode.
Hey.
Right. We might. I don't know. I'll think about it because we've kind of you've definitely got the main. You've sort of worked out, I guess, the main points. But what we might potentially just pick up where we leave off with these, and we stick with these characters, and then next week actually deal with that issue, find out why you were left to these beastmen, and maybe seeing if you can sort out that problem. So we'll probably actually stick with these characters and just continue this investigation next week.
All right,
guys, that was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
You rolled amazingly at the beginning. I was all of the social interactions was just like, you've just, everyone likes you,
but then
you're
it
friends
lost
with
that in
everyone.
Friggin' combat though. It was like,
And then,
glad I got all those good rolls out.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It was like, oh, look at all those 20s you rolled, not in combat.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, you did see off the small group of beastmen, though the leader did survive. And even if the leader was a little bit confused about how the retreat action worked for a moment, never actually was able to. I was kind of like, I guess, you get away and you can start doing, some magic-y stuff, and then I'll just jump away, and he's like, no, that's not how that works at all. I was like, right, of course, good. But it does look like I've been checking in on Zane to see how that is going, and apparently the internet decided to go out for his entire building. And so while he was
the good old Australian classic.
just completely died. So he spent most of the episode trying unsuccessfully to reconnect, only to have the sort of the building manager come by and go, oh, just by the way, the internet's down throughout the building.
Right.
So,
however, if anyone wants to connect with Zane, he's at Zane C. Weber on Twitter.
He is. He is also. You can find some of his other work at That's Not Canon Productions, which is the home of just a range of podcasts. There's a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Currently they're doing a Disney versus Disney debate podcast, and if you listen to the second episode, you might recognize a voice because it's me, and I diligently try and defend Toy Story as the best Disney movie of all time. So
big call.
Yeah.
I was personally just hoping to get to the second round. That's all I wanted out of that. I didn't want to lose with Toy Story in the first round. And you'll have to listen to the podcast to find out if I'm sad or not. But continue around, Jamie. How do people get in contact with you, and what are you up to?
I'm at Muffin Manifesto on Twitter. I'm an Australian-based voice actor, and keep your eyes peeled because in the next few weeks, hopefully, I'll be announcing the first beta access to a role-playing game that I'm designing, which is about Viking communities, and it's a hack of Blades in the Dark, and I'm excited.
So keen.
So cool.
So keen.
Ree. I'll take over. Yeah, I'm Rhiannon. You can find me on Twitter at rsmauschel. I am an actor, singer, dancer, and voice actor. I'm currently featured regularly on the Penny Peep Show podcast. So catch us on the Penny Peep Show podcast. Regular stories, fantastic fun, very silly. Please check us out.
Fantastic. Lois.
You can find me on Twitter at incognitiously, or you can find me at my website at storytrade.net. You'll find a whole bunch of random stuff
incognitiously in the chat because it's not on our screen.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. Good call.
Yeah. And you'll find on StoryTrade a whole bunch of random stuff, including translations of 16th century texts.
Cool.
Fantastic. And I have been Sammy P. You can find me on Twitter at _real Sammy P. And you can also find me on YouTube with Sammy P Productions. I do a series called Let's Voice, where I play games like Pathfinder Kingmaker and Pillars of Eternity 2, and I turn off all the voices and I do all the characters to varying levels of success. Unfortunately, I was hoping to get some more videos recorded today, and then construction work next door decided to say no about that. But hopefully going into next week, I will have a few new episodes up on YouTube. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming and joining us for this episode of Empire in Shadow. Once again, Our sponsors are Fantasy Grounds, which is our virtual tabletop of choice. All of our roles we made on Fantasy Grounds. You can find them and try for free at fantasygrounds.com. You can also go to Wayland Games at waylandgames.co.uk to get 20% off a wide range of miniatures, and Tabletop Loot, which provide fantastic dice, which unfortunately we were not able to get to the retweet goal, but please stay tuned. That will continue for other shows on account of roleplay. You can try and get the retweet goal for that one so they can give away some dice, and that would be fantastic. So from us at Empire and Shadow, the Compact, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope to see you next week, 5 p.m. Saturday, Eastern Standard Time. Till then, have fun, roll dice.
We didn't die.
You didn't die.
More living.